Good morning. I'm Powell Motsumi. I'm currently working at Botswana National Museum and former site manager of Tsodilo World Heritage Site. I'm going to be presenting to you on the definition of heritage interpretive practices at rock art, the Tsodilo case. That's map of Botswana. Right by the corner there, that's where Tsodilo World Heritage Site is located. In the oops. Okay, that's where Tsodilo is located in the northwestern side of Botswana. So Tsodilo World Heritage Site was listed as a World Heritage Site in 2001. Those are the three criteria that were considered as the universally outstanding values that made Tsodilo to be listed as a World Heritage Site. So the most interesting one is criteria number 6, which in my presentation is number 3, is the one that I'm going to be mostly focusing on because the belief systems are my main interest, given that we are my topic mainly talks about incorporating the community or promoting a community involvement and engagement, and also looking at the welfare that comes out of a heritage resources, because it is common that, as other speakers have been saying, it is common that initially when heritage was promoted, there were a lot of bottlenecks. There were a lot of red tapes in terms of restricting the community from accessing the very resource that belongs to them. So, okay, this paper discusses implication for heritage as a lived experience rather than a static monument. The key ways that we are looking at is the community voices, participatory practices, and benefit. Those are the key ways that I'll be mainly focusing on. My second point, it advocates for decolonization in heritage discourse while highlighting how sustainable rock art management can be achieved through collaborative efforts with the communities. Drawing on my experience, this paper analyzes interconnectedness of the three elements, being heritage, community, and beneficiation. In terms of connectiveness, it is very, very crucial that as heritage practitioners, we should promote access to heritage resources by reducing the restrictions that are associated mainly with the Eurocentric concepts. On the issue of decolonizations, mainly, I can say it is important that we remove or we reduce red tapes that were introduced when heritage was being promoted. Just to derail a little bit, I can give an example of one heritage site in Zimbabwe that I read about. There's a site in Zimbabwe that is called Domboshava. When heritage practitioners were trying to promote heritage or protect the site, they introduced some. They introduced the fence. They fenced out the site or the heritage site in order to regulate movement, or as a way of protecting the site from damage. So as a result, the community was not happy, but according to what I read, it appears the government or the museum was not aware about this displeasure that was associated with the developments that they introduced. And ultimately, somebody just got upset and went into the site at night and introduced an oil paint and painted the rock paintings that were very, very important that they were trying to protect. So it's one example that really shows that when we're trying to introduce some restrictions as a way of conserving and protecting the heritage, we leave out the community. As a result, instead of protecting ourselves, rather, we upset the community. So it is important that whenever we try to promote a conservation or preservation and protection of heritage sites, we should also consider the voices of the community that reside around heritage sites. So I will illustrate the heritage preservation and interpretation in that it is better served when structures are in place that ensures sustainability, community ownership, and beneficiation. This is especially critical in the site list listed also on a criteria 6. I've mentioned this point. I'll just pass it. As Tsodilo site manager from 2017 to 2023, implementation, mainly I focus on implementing the management plan with the focus on strengthening community beneficiation and ownership. Heritage management today stands at a crossroads. Traditional models often derived from Eurocentric conservation and museums are fast becoming relevant. This is because, like I said earlier on, some of these regulations that we place around protecting heritage sites, they leave out the community. We just adopted them just because maybe we're trying to protect. We of course, the reason behind the introduction of this regulations were, of course, done in good faith, but of course, it is a learning curve in the sense that perhaps we did not know the kind of implications that were likely to come with such regulations being introduced around protecting heritage sites. Mainly for sites that extend beyond isolated artifacts, like for instance, Tsodilo. Tsodilo mainly is a very, very spiritual place. The community do not want to have some barriers put around the heritage resource, given that it's a source of livelihood in terms of their spirituality, mainly as the point that I'll emphasize on. Of course, there are so many other reasons, but mainly in my presentation, I will touch on that because Tsodilo is quite interesting in the sense that its spirituality goes beyond boundaries. When I was serving as the site manager, something that was intriguing is that quite often I would see even people coming as far as Namibia, Zimbabwe, KwaZulu Natal. We once had a group of Sangomas who were white in large numbers coming to access the shrines at Tsodilo. They claimed they were directed to come to Tsodilo so that they may access the spirituality or some of the sacred places at Tsodilo World Heritage Site. Also, some churches were coming as far as Zimbabwe to come also to come and explore the spirituality around Tsodilo. We also had a group that regularly come or visit Tsodilo, also to come for spiritual upliftment in Tsodilo. So, in a way, one can easily see that indeed Tsodilo is such a place of deep and rich spirituality. So, as such, it reiterates on the point that indeed, as heritage practitioners, we should be cautious when we apply stringent regulations around restricting the community from accessing the site. Just to quote from the scholars who also are reiterating on the fact that we shouldn't restrict communities from accessing heritage resources. Smith, 2006, has this to say: heritage is a social construct where the value is created through the process of people using objects, places to give meaning to their values and identity. So communities place a lot of value on heritage resources, and such resources are a source of identity. So restricting them really can cause disputes. So the other scholars also have this to say, or they emphasize the need to move beyond strict separation between nature, culture, and human and non-human worlds. Back to my point on my experience as a former site manager. When I arrived in Tsodilo, I found some platforms already established. For instance, the trust was there, but somehow it was dysfunctional due to some reasons. Of course, we can discuss on another forum. So what I did my own assessment with the effort to try to revive the structures so that the site could be, the community could function once again. So one of the areas that I had to target was obviously the community trust, the guys that were also discouraged, and other means through which uh, the economy of the community could be turned around. So first of all, when I got in Tsodilo as the site manager, I had to revive the community trust to ensure that all the engines that are running the heritage site for community benefit are in place. Like I mentioned, the community guys were also discouraged because the systems were collapsing. There wasn't that order of running things smoothly. So one of the efforts that I made was to meet them regularly, discuss with them on how we could better do things for them to start operating. One of the things that we also introduced was the annual heritage walk as a way of showing the community that indeed Tsodilo as a heritage resource, not necessarily as a World Heritage Site, can benefit them as a way of encouraging them to be part and parcel of the protection, preservation of the site. The other important pillar that I also had to consider was the trust campsites. They were also not functioning because they were not maintained. Visitors were not interested. So all I did was to find ways through which campsites could be maintained so that we may have our visitors using them for the benefit of the community. And the other important factor that I looked at was the craft shop. It also had to be revived. The initiative results, these are some of the results that came as a result of looking at the pillars that I mentioned before. Okay. Yes, now when it comes to the heritage walk, we introduced a heritage walk in Tsodilo, and it was one of the success stories because it engaged the community. They were able to participate, and the first one of its own, we were able to attract 200 participants. The following one, we were able to grow by 100% because 400 plus participants came and they participated and they were buying merchandise, even the food that the community was cooking at different stalls. So the community was now appreciating and they started to appreciate the goodness around their heritage site. Other important points that I would like to make here concerns the Eurocentric models that I mentioned before. They are the red tapes, like regulations, acts that we are using, management plans. At times, of course, when we formulate such, ideally, we would be trying to protect the heritage resource, but yet leaving out the community. So one of the the efforts that I made at trust meetings. We discussed management plans. We discussed the acts, all the regulations that were meant to protect the site so that they could indicate where they feel there are impediments. My time is up. Okay. But basically, in conclusion, how many more minutes? Just try to wrap up. Okay. I'll try to wrap up very quickly. I have some discussions that I placed here. You can have a look at them quickly. Okay, these are some of the pictures that show the museum infrastructure. These are museum staff, and yours GLE is part of them here. Powell Motsumi, of course. One of the ways of trying to promote ownership or sense of belonging is that Tsodilo staff, they comprise of 98%. It's only a few of us who are coming out, outside Tsodilo. So it's a way of promoting a sense of ownership. Again, lastly, the most important point that I would like to highlight here is that people in Tsodilo, when they look at Tsodilo, they don't just see the heritage resource as a range of hills, because there is the male hill, the female hill, the child and the grandchild. So they see those hills as a family. Even when they do their prayers, they treat them as sort of their ancestors. So some of these are some of the pictures.
Maybe we'll stop here and we will get the chance with the questions to show more of your story.
Okay.
And, yes.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, is there any questions?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. So I will have just one question. You've been site manager for 6 years at Tsodilo, and during the past 20 minutes, you acknowledged many things, that people come from all around the region to go to Tsodilo, that it's a very spiritual place, that locals don't really like the fencing around the site. And at the same time, that fencing can provoke damages, as you said in the Zimbabwe example. So why is there still a fence today?
Well, I don't think in the case of Tsodilo, fencing has shown any element of distraction on the community, but rather the restrictions on access rather is the one that was an impediment, because, and again, the restriction in terms of when to access the site mainly was the problem. Of course, if fencing was posing a threat to the site, of course, I believe we could have considered maybe doing something, but since it hasn't been a form of threat, nothing was done.
But just why then do you say that the fence is a problem for local community?
Well, mainly, of course, I'm just using my observation. I haven't got any feedback from the community in terms of having defense. Of course, it was very important also on their side, because the Tsodilo World Heritage Site is situated just next to the village, so their livestock has the interest to get into the site, but they appreciate the fact that it has helped to prevent their livestock from entering, because whenever we had cases where livestock entered the site, it wasn't pleasant to the tourists or to the visitors. And imagine if revenue drops, or revenue drops because visitors are no longer interested as a result of the roaming livestock. So they embraced the fence because of the fact that it also helped prevent their livestock from entering. I think that's what I can say.
Thank you so much for that really incredible presentation. I just wanted to ask, with regards to your community involvement and your accessing the community and doing the turnaround, what do you think is your main methodology in your turnaround of the community? What do you think was the key thing that actually, the key method or approach that won them over, that got your trust or started the whole process to be something more inclusive?
Okay, thank you for that question. The key strategies that they really appreciated, first and foremost, was the introduction of the walk, because they could see revenue flowing in, and individuals were benefiting, and the community at large was also benefiting. The other important factor that was also intriguing was allowing them access to go to the sacred places, and to have access to the gods, and perform their rituals without being restricted in terms of time, in terms of taking their visitors to explore the beauty of the site or the spirituality of the site. Those are the two factors that I can think of.
There more questions?
Thank you very much, Powell. Very nice presentation. Because we live at Tsodilo with the people, that's why you are able to talk like that. That is a wonderful thing. But can you go to that wooden bridge? And I want you to comment on it in how you want. I think you have a wooden bridge picture in your presentation.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Tell us what you think about it and preservation issues associated with it, including risk.
Okay. It's a staircase that we introduced at Tsodilo.
Can you maybe show it on the
Oh,
picture?
yes. Okay, it's a staircase in Tsodilo. So the reason why it was introduced is because we had some of our visitors who were of old age. They were interested in climbing to the top of the hill to access some of the important sites. So then we felt it was important to enable them to reach such sites. That's when we introduced the staircase, and they really appreciated. Most of our visitors, they were happy with it. Of course, there were those who were worried about its introduction, because it's a wooden staircase that is susceptible to a fire or chances of fire. So, but otherwise, we had a fund, and we felt that we should please our visitors across all the age divide. So that was mainly the reason. Thank you.
Thank you for the colorful presentation. It was so wonderful. I just wanted to comment on the Domboshava example that you gave. The Domboshava case had more of a problem of unfulfilled expectations. Like when the community was involved, being consulted as the process of it being nominated for national monument status in 1996, they expected, obviously, that they were going to benefit, like Agnes was presenting in the morning, of the benefits that will come. Unfortunately, the benefits did not come in the form that they expected. I'm not sure about the fence, but this is the site that I have from the records in our files. So when they got frustrated because they were not getting, the government puts a fence, people are paying to get into the site, and somehow the community leaders or some of the members of the community were expecting a share of the gate takings, which is not possible to make such an arrangement or something. So because of that frustration that they were thinking they were going to make money from what is being paid by the visitors, they reacted in the way that you presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, for that comment.
There one last.
Thank you, Mr. Motsumi, for the presentation. I think we need to go further into documenting the different religious groups which visit Tsodilo. Also, that if you have Sangomas from KwaZulu-Natal, it will mean that Tsodilo is powerful. So we have to see which other groups use the site for just purposes. It was not a question, but just a statement. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.